Hi guys, it's Miss Lydia with today's episode of The Bible Says What? And I'm going to talk to you about leadership today. One of the best leaders that our world has known was Jesus, and he led by serving people. We talked about servanthood a few weeks ago and what that looks like. In Matthew, Jesus called his disciples to him and instructed them, saying, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man didn't come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." In the Israelites' time, they were instructed to pick their leaders by these criteria. They were told to pick capable men who feared God, who were trustworthy, and who hated dishonest gain. Philippians tells us in 3-4, not to do anything out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, we're supposed to value others above ourselves, not looking for our own interests, but looking out for the interests of others. Now that kind of tells us what the Bible says about what a leader is supposed to look like. And I think what we have to ask ourselves now is, how do we apply that to our lives? Here's what a good leader is supposed to be. We're not supposed to be selfish. We're not supposed to be, we're not supposed to lord our power over people, but instead we're supposed to be honest, and we're supposed to hate dishonest gain. We're supposed to fear God, which means we trust him, we choose him, we obey him, and we know that he has something better for us. That is what the Bible tells us about leadership, and how we can apply that in our lives to grow as leaders is I found in Philippians 2:14-16 says, do everything without grumbling or arguing, so that you can become blameless and pure, children of God without fault in a warped and crooked generation. Then you will shine among them like stars in the sky as you hold firmly to the word of life. And then again, in Proverbs 4:23, it tells us that above all else, we're to guard our heart, because everything we do comes from our heart. Standing out and choosing to do what is godly or God-honoring can be really hard. It can be hard whenever our friends are all doing something, or they're making fun of somebody, or they're watching something you know God would not approve of, God wouldn't love. It can be hard to choose not to do that. It can be hard to hold our tongue when we're helping somebody, or when we want them to do something for us. It can be hard to choose to serve other people instead, or to follow instructions without complaining about it. But every time that we choose to hold our tongue, and every time we choose to stand up for somebody who's being made fun of, or even who's just sitting by themselves, maybe they need a friend, it can be hard to do those things, to lead and to serve in those ways. But my encouragement for that is found in Galatians 6-9, which says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we don't give up." And that is just so encouraging for me when I get weary, when I get tired of choosing to do what's right, or choosing to do what I need to do, whether my flesh wants to or not. Because it can be tempting to choose to go along. It's easier, it can be more fun sometimes. But God calls us to be leaders. And every time we do that, we grow in our leadership. And we become those shining stars that shine out in a crooked world. And we become those blameless, pure hearts that God desires for us to have. So let that be encouraging. Don't give up. Keep choosing to do what you know is right. Keep choosing to do what is God-honoring, because God will bring that reward for you. And it looks different in many different ways. But if you don't grow weary and you keep going, you will reap a harvest, and it will be beautiful. Thank you for joining us for today's Bible Says What? And I hope to see you next time.